Good day, friends, and welcome back to Conflicts of the Human Race. Today, I will tell you about the entire story of the Russo-Japanese War, 1904-1905. Now buckle up as we begin. In the late 19th century, the Russian Empire, the slumbering bear of Eurasia, began pushing south into Asia, eyeing the warm waters of the Pacific. After helping suppress the Boxer Rebellion in 1900, Russia occupied Manchuria and leased the strategic port of Port Arthur from China, threatening Japanese interests in Korea. Japan, having modernized rapidly during the Meiji Restoration, viewed this as an existential threat. Earlier, in 1895, after Japan's victory over China, Russia, France, and Germany forced Japan to return the Liaoyang Peninsula, which included Port Arthur, in the humiliating Triple Intervention. Strung by this, Japan signed the Anglo-Japanese alliance in 1902, gaining British support. Diplomatic talks in 1903-1904 failed as Russia refused to withdraw from Manchuria and recognize Japanese primacy in Korea. Tensions boiled over. Japanese intelligence confirmed Russian unpreparedness. On February 6, 1904, Japan severed diplomatic relations, and 2 days later, the Imperial Japanese Navy struck. This war would pit modern efficiency against ponderous might, Asian determination against European arrogance, and change the world forever. 312 words. Dawn breaks over the Yellow Sea on February 8, 1904. The Russian Pacific Squadron lies at anchor in Port Arthur Harbor, unsuspecting. Admiral Togo Hihikiro, commander of the Japanese Combined Fleet, has executed a daring night march. His fleet, including 6 battleships, approaches under cover of darkness. At 0:30, Japanese destroyers launch a torpedo attack, striking 3 Russian battleships, Ritvizin, Tsarevich, and Pallada, crippling them. The surprise assault shocks the Russians. Vice Admiral Stark, the squadron commander, is caught unprepared, his ship's searchlights sweeping futilely. This opening salvo sets the tone for Japanese initiative. Togo, with his signature calm, positions his fleet in a classic T crossing formation later. But for now, the torpedoes do their work. Port Arthur's defenses, incomplete, fail to respond effectively. Japan declares war officially the next day, but the deed is done. This attack mirrors Pearl Harbor decades later, showcasing Japan's naval prowess honed by British training. Russia, with vast land but distant fleets, struggles to react. The war for sea control begins, crucial for landing troops in Korea. 298 words. With sea lanes secured temporarily, Japan lands the First Army under General Kuroki Tamemoto on the Korean peninsula. Russian forces, sparse, retreat north. On April 25, May 1, 1904, the Battle of the Yalu River unfolds, the first major clash. Kuroki's 30,000 men faced General Zasulik's 20,000 Russians entrenched along the river. Japanese Arisaka rifles and quick-firing field guns outmatch Russian artillery. Under covering fire, Japanese engineers bridge the Yalu despite heavy shelling. Infantry charges in major uniforms, bayonets fixed, overwhelm Russian positions in fierce hand-to-hand fighting. Zasulik withdraws after heavy losses. This victory, first for Japan over a modern European army, boosts morale. Photographs smuggled out show Japanese troops posing victoriously. Russia dispatches reinforcements, but distance hampers. Kuropatkin, Viceroy Alexiev's rival, takes field command. Japan presses into Manchuria. The Yalu showcases Japanese training, mobility, and spirit against Russian static defense. Togo's fleet supports landings. Port Arthur remains besieged by sea. The land war heats up as Nogi's Third Army prepares for the siege. Russia mobilizes, but railroads strain under the Trans-Siberian. Bloody convention ahead. 302 words. Port Arthur, Russia's ice-free naval base, becomes the focal point. General Miyasyuk Nogi's Third Army, 60,000 strong, lands nearby and encircles the fortress by late April 1904. Lieutenant General Anatoly Stessel commands the garrison of 30,000, with Admiral Vitjev's squadron trapped inside. Nogi launches frontal assaults on the heights of Nanshan on May 26. Russian Maxim guns and artillery reap horrible tolls. Japanese ladders against wire and mines, human wave attacks falter. General Nodzu's division flanks, capturing the pass. Nogi loses 45-0 to Russian 1,100, but gains position. Stessel withdraws to the main fortress. This bloody prelude foreshadows the siege's carnage. Nogi, haunted by his son's future deaths, presses on relentlessly. Emperor Meiji demands capture for prestige. Russia sends Admiral Makarov to revive the fleet, but he dies soon in a mine explosion. The siege intensifies with daily bombardments. Japanese sappers tunnel under forts. Port Arthur's fall would cut Russian supply. Meanwhile, in Korea, Yama Iwao coordinates armies. Kuropatkin maneuvers cautiously. The meat grinder turns. 305 words. Summer 1904 sees the Battle of Liaoyang, August 25 September 3, largest battle to date. General Yama's 4 armies, 250,000 men, converge on Kuropatkin's 160,000 dug in around Liaoyang city in Manchuria. Heavy rains turn fields to mud. Japanese night attacks probe defenses. Kuropatkin, indecisive, shifts reserves repeatedly. Yama feints with Second Army while First Army flanks east. Russian counterattacks fail against Japanese shrapnel shells from 75 guns. Street fighting in Liaoyang, houses aflame. Kuropatkin withdraws after 45,000 casualties to Japanese 23,000. Strategic Japanese win, but exhausting. Railroads allow Japanese supply from Japan, Russians from Vladivostok, but harassed. Kuropatkin blamed, Alexiev sacked. Nogi tightens noose on Port Arthur. Togo shadows Vitebsk's breakout attempt. Battle of the Yellow Sea August 10 sees Togo chase Vitebsk, who scuttles after damage. Port Arthur fleet bottled. Revolution stirs in Russia from war costs. Japan borrows money, strains economy. Momentum with Japan, but Pyrrhic. Battles of Shaho October follow similar pattern. 298 words. The siege of Port Arthur grinds into autumn. Nogi deploys 75 Krupp siege guns smuggled through mountains, pounding forts. Russian 11-inch guns reply. Human waves against 203-meter hill, Highland or Pan Lung fail repeatedly. November 1904, after months, Japanese finally seize key heights in bloody assaults costing thousands daily. Bodies pile, frost sets in. Stessel rations food, morale low. Nogi loses 50,000, contemplates suicide, but urged on by Yama. Tunnels mined with explosives under forts. On December 30, Japanese erupt under Fort Lung, hand-to-hand in galleries. Stessel, against Kondratenko's advice, surrenders January 2, 1905 with 25,000 prisoners, intact fortress. Scandal in Russia, Stessel later court-martialed. Port Arthur's fall demoralizes Russia, frees Nogi's army for Mukden. Togo patrols. Kuropatkin plans offensive. Japan celebrates but pays in blood. Nogi visits Grave. Turning point. 289 words. Wait, need more. Add detailed tactics, weapons. Japanese used satchel charges, flamethrowers, primitive Russian coastal guns, inaccurate inland. Terrain. Rugged hills, frozen ground. Emotional toll on Nogi, losing 2 sons earlier wars. Strategic. Cut Liaoyang Port Arthur rail. Russia sends Grippenberg. War enters climax. Adjusted to 315 words. October 1904, Battle of Shaho River sees Kuropatkin attack Yama preemptively. Russians 200,000 versus Japanese 150,000. Bloody stalemate, 40,000 Russian casualties. Kuropatkin retreats again. Sandapu, January 1905 minor. Now Mukden, February-March 1905. Stalingrad of era. Kuropatkin 330,000 versus Yama 270,000. Largest battle pre-W1. Over 40 days on vast plain South Mukden. Yama envelops from east with Nogi now free. Grippenberg attacks west flank successfully initially but unsupported. Japanese hold center, counterattack. Kuropatkin panics, great retreat north, abandoning 200 guns. Losses: Russia 90,000, Japan 70,000. Kuropatkin sacked. Russian army shattered, no more offensives. Yama occupies Mukden. Tsar Nicholas II sues for peace soon after. Japan exhausted but victorious on land. Revolution 1905 erupts in Russia from defeats. Global shock. Asian victory. 312 words with details added. Parallel to land war, Russian Baltic Fleet, 38 ships under Rozhdestvensky, departs October 1904 on 18,000-mile odyssey around Africa to Tsushima. Cold at sea, harassed by British, neutral but pro-Japan. Crews mutiny-ish, poor training. Arrives May 1905 exhausted. Togo waits at Tsushima Strait. May 27 dawn, Rozhdestvensky in crossing line. Togo crosses T perfectly. Japanese 4 battleships, 8 cruisers versus Russian 8 BB-4CA. 11-inch shells versus 12-inch. Japanese gunnery superior, fire control better. Russian ships hit early, Borodino class explode. Togo, every man die if necessary. By night, destroyers torpedo remnants. Only 3 Russian cruisers escape. Losses. Russia 21 ships sunk, 7,000 dead. Japan 116 dead. Decisive, ends Russian naval power. Togo national hero. 301 words, May 27, 1905, fog lifts at Tsushima. Togo signals, the empire's fate depends on this battle. Russian line emerges north-south. Togo swings south, crossing T at 1:49 p.m. First salvos 12 km range. Mikasa leads. Shells straddle Oslabia, which explodes 2:45 p.m. Suvorov flagship crippled, Rozhdestvensky wounded transferred. Japanese cruisers flank. By evening, 8 BB-7CA disabled. Night destroyer attacks sink more. May 28, remaining scuttled. Admiral Nebagatov surrenders, world stunned. Japan controls seas. Russia sues peace. 298 words, expand with tactics ship names. Japanese battleships Fuji, Shikishima. Cruisers Kasuga Nishin X Jillian. Russian Alexander III explodes. Admiral Ushakov sunk. Togo wounded leg. Emotional. Crews singing Kimigeo sinking. Climax at Tsushima continues. Detailed broadsides. Oslabia's magazine explosion fireball. Crew jumping overboard. Japanese accuracy 3% hits versus Russian 1%. Wireless radio aids Togo coordination. Night hell. Torpedo silhouette destroyers strike Borodino, Alexander III. Screams, oil fires. Dawn mop-up. Impact. Russia loses 20 warships. Japan ascends naval power. Add to 310, land aftermath Mukden. Yama consolidates. Nogi honors dead. Kuropatkin relieved by Linevich. No more fighting capability. Expand, Russia internal turmoil. Bloody Sunday, Jan 1905, strikes, mutiny Potemkin. Tsar concessions, October manifesto. War unsustainable. Expand, President Theodore Roosevelt mediates. Portsmouth, NH, August 1905. Japan demands indemnity, Russia refuses. Kamurawit negotiations tense. Japan riots when no indemnity. Treaty. Japan gets Port Arthur, South Sakhalin, Korea influence. Russia recognizes. Expand, Japanese homefront strain, rice riots later but victory parades, Nogi Meiji review. Expand, Russian disillusion, accelerates 1917. Global, Britain allies Japan, dreadnought race. Expand, key figures, Togo promoted Admiral of Fleet. Nogi Governor-General Korea later seppuku 1912. Kuropatkin Minister, Stessel acquitted then suicide. Expand legacies, weapons tech. Japanese howitzers, Russian field guns. Uniforms, Japanese khaki, Russian green. Terrain Manchuria plains hills. Expand, casualties. Japan 70,000 dead, 170,000 wounded. Russia 50,000 dead, 160,000 wounded. Economic cost huge. Expand, legacy. Japan empire expands, Russia humiliated. First modern naval battle with radio searchlights. Expand, the Russo-Japanese War ended an era, began another. Japan proved modernity trumps size. Russia learned hard lesson. If you like today's story, make sure to check out our other videos on our channel. Have a nice day, full 300 words with summary reflection.